Picture this. A Japanese father comes home at 9 p.m. The house is quiet. His child is already in bed. He doesn't scroll his phone. He doesn't turn on the television. He walks to his child's room, sits on the floor beside the futon, and for exactly 10 minutes, he does one specific thing. Not reading. Not playing. Something far simpler. And far more powerful. By morning, that child's brain will be measurably different from the brain of a child whose father came home and did nothing. That's not a metaphor. That's neuroscience. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what that father did, why it works at a biological level, and how any father anywhere can do the same thing tonight, regardless of how many hours he was away. Stay with me. Because what Japanese fathers understand about the 10 minutes before sleep is something Western parenting culture has almost completely missed. Let's start with a number. In Japan, the average father spends significantly less time at home than fathers in most Western countries. Japanese work culture is demanding. Long hours are not the exception, they are the expectation. And yet, study after study shows that children raised by Japanese fathers score higher on emotional regulation, demonstrate stronger attachment security, and show measurably better cognitive development than many of their Western counterparts. How is that possible? How does a father who is physically absent for most of the day produce outcomes that a more present father sometimes doesn't? The answer isn't quantity. It never was. It's what Japanese fathers do with the time they have. And it starts with a concept most Western fathers have never been taught to take seriously. In Japan, it's called Kodawari. Kodawari doesn't translate cleanly. The closest English approximation is something like an uncompromising commitment to doing one thing with complete attention and care. In Japanese craftsmanship, a sushi chef who has spent 30 years perfecting a single rice technique has Kodawari. A carpenter who sands the same joint for an hour until it is exactly right has Kodawari. It isn't obsession. It isn't perfectionism. It is the deep belief that how you do a thing matters as much as whether you do it at all. Japanese fathers apply this to the 10 minutes they have with their child each day. Not as a technique. As a philosophy. The 10 minutes are not casual. They are not distracted. They are not performed while half watching a screen. They are given completely. And that completeness, that quality of attention, is what changes the brain. Here's the science behind why this works. Researchers at the University of Oregon studied what happens neurologically in a child's brain during moments of undivided parental attention, specifically the kind of focused, calm, one-on-one presence that involves no agenda, no correction, no instruction. Just a parent, fully there, attending to the child with complete awareness. What they found was remarkable. During these moments, the child's brain releases a cascade of neurochemicals, oxytocin, the bonding hormone, dopamine, the motivation and reward chemical, and most significantly, a measurable reduction in cortisol, the stress hormone that, when chronically elevated in childhood, is one of the strongest predictors of anxiety, learning difficulty, and emotional dysregulation in adulthood. 10 minutes of complete, undivided, agenda-free attention does more for a child's neurological baseline than hours of physically shared space where the parent's attention is divided. And here is the part that I find extraordinary. The brain doesn't measure time. It measures presence. A child cannot tell the difference between a father who was home all day but distracted, and a father who was away all day and then gave 10 fully present minutes. Neurologically, the second child often has the advantage. Japanese fathers, many of them unconsciously, have understood this for generations. So what does this actually look like? Because Kodawari without a practice is just a philosophy. And philosophies only matter if they change what you do when you walk through the door exhausted at 9 o'clock at night. There are 3 specific things Japanese fathers do inside those 10 minutes. And each one maps directly onto a neurological outcome. The first is floor presence. Japanese fathers sit on the floor with their child. Not on a chair above them. not perched on the edge of a bed. On the floor, at the child's level. This is not accidental. In Japanese culture, the floor is where life happens: eating, sleeping, playing, reading. When a father comes down to floor level, he is sending a signal that the child's nervous system registers before any word is spoken. I have come into your world. You do not need to come up to mine. Research in developmental psychology calls this physical mirroring, and it activates the child's social engagement system almost immediately. The second is narrated listening. Japanese fathers ask one question. Not many. 1. Something small and specific about the child's day. And then they listen fully, without interrupting, without fixing, without redirecting. But here is what makes this different from simply listening. Japanese fathers narrate back what they hear. Not in a clinical way. In a warm, present way. So you felt frustrated when that happened. That makes sense. That simple act of narration, of a child hearing their own experience reflected back with accuracy and without judgment, is one of the most powerful tools in developmental psychology. It is called reflective listening, and its effects on a child's emotional vocabulary, self-awareness, and capacity for self-regulation have been documented in dozens of studies across multiple decades. The third is stillness before sleep. In Japan, the period just before a child falls asleep is treated as sacred. Not a rush. Not a logistics handoff. Fathers sit in the quiet after the conversation ends. Sometimes they hum. Sometimes they simply breathe. The child falls asleep with the father's physical presence as the last sensory input of the day. What this does neurologically is significant. The brain consolidates emotional experience during the transition into sleep. A child who moves into sleep feeling seen, calm, and accompanied lays down memory traces that are fundamentally different from a child who moves into sleep alone or mid-anxiety. Japanese fathers understood this intuitively. Neuroscience has since confirmed it. Now I want to be honest about something, because this matters. Not every father can do this. Single fathers doing it alone. Fathers working night shifts. Fathers separated from their children. The 10-minute model requires physical presence at bedtime, and that is a privilege not everyone has. I'm not pretending otherwise. But here is what the research also shows. The principle is not locked to bedtime. The principle is locked to quality of attention. A father who drives his child to school and puts his phone in the glove compartment and asks one real question and listens to the full answer, that is Kodawari. A father who sits beside his child at breakfast and says nothing but is fully, completely there, that is Kodawari. The container changes. The principle does not. Complete attention. One moment. No agenda. Fully present. That is the whole practice. So here is your practical starting point. Tonight, or tomorrow morning, or the next school run, whenever you next have 10 minutes with your child, try this. Sit down to their level. Ask one small question. Something specific. Not, how was your day? Too wide, too easy to deflect. Something like, what was the hardest part of today, or was there a moment today that felt good? Then stop. Listen completely. Narrate back what you hear without fixing it. And when the conversation ends, don't rush away. Sit in the quiet for just a minute longer than feels comfortable. That discomfort, that minute of stillness you want to fill, is the practice. That is the 10 minutes working. Japanese fathers aren't more present because they have more time. They're more present because they made a decision about what presence actually means. Not duration. Not proximity. Attention. Complete, undivided, Kodawari attention. 10 minutes.